lie with the academic entity. And sometimes some communities have even complained that after the research is done, they do not get any data back, they get no more information. And people have termed that type of research as helicopter research. We want to do it different in Louisiana as far as CaTS is concerned. Next slide. So the basic structure and why our program is a little different from other pilot projects is that we require that we have both a community PI and an academic PI. So the only eligibility criteria is that the leadership of the proposed project have both a community PI and an academic PI. We don't want an academic PI and then, have community partners, but they're not in leadership position. So this way, we know that both the community and the academic institution are on the same footing, and they all have equal stake in the project. We believe that this kind of model would create a more sustainable approach to advancing research and making impact in our community. So when we first started, we had quite a few dollars in terms of the some carryover funds. So the first year we were able to fund more than two, but when we went in for a renewal about 3 years ago, we put it in with NIH to fund about two of these projects. So we have funding to support the research up to the tune of $10,000. The pilot project is only designed for a year. In many instances, it has been, folks have gotten a no-cost extension. But what it generally happens is a two-part type of mechanism. So we don't necessarily expect that the folks who come in, because we're demanding up front that community and academic be on equal footing, that the both the community and academic partners may be on the same level in terms of expertise. So the community brings its expertise in knowing the community, understands what's community relevant, whereas the academic institution may bring more of the research skills. So what we do at the very start of the program, once we identify the candidates for award, they go through about a 6 weeks, which is about a 13 module training, which is more didactic in nature. And the way that we do that is that we want to first educate the researchers on community engagement, community-based participatory principles and methods. And then for the academics, who kind of understand more of the research 101. And then this way, both teams have sort of prepared to really embark on the research. The other idea there too is that these projects sometimes, when they're selected by the reviewers, are not ready for prime time yet, but it has a high community relevance. So this didactic period is also the opportunity for the investigators to beef up their proposal, because ultimately it has to get signed off by NIH to release the funds for them to actually do the study. So basically that's what that is. So what are the competencies that we hope that our participants will achieve? Next slide. Basically, we hope that they will be able to discuss the concepts and components of community-based participatory research and other methods of community-engaged research, that they will be able to apply these principles, the CBPR principles, in the conduct of research. And some of those principles are basically saying that, community is a co-teacher, is a co-learner. Community has also expertise, just like the academic researcher also brings expertise. So really feeling the sense that there's some level of, there's some degree of equity in terms of shared responsibilities and shared ownership in terms of the research process. So here again, we want them to be able to incorporate the CBPR principles principles and approaches in grant applications. We're finding out now, and if most of you have been paying attention, a number of the COVID-19 proposals that NIH is funded now, or the announcements that are going on, all stress the need that it be community engaged. Because we're finding out that without communities' real, true participation and involvement, these research projects do not have the yield, the positive yield that is intended. So again, there's a great recognition for the need to involve community. Also, they'll be able to implement a pilot project using CBPR initiatives with very high potential for continued research funding. So most times what happens, the model is academics think of the research, they identify the community, they go in there, they recruit the community, they do the research, write the papers, get additional funding. But every cycle, they have to go back and recruit again. It's almost like, you know, being in sales, and every time you got to make a sale, you have to find a new customer. What if you had a relationship with a cadre of customers, and every time you had a new product, you just let them know, and if they're interested, they would continue to buy from you. So this model of establishing a true partnership or a relationship means that the academic can find a research opportunity and team go back to the community partner and say, hey, this is something exciting, maybe we can work together on this also. Or the community identifies an opportunity, and because they have a relationship with the academic, they go in and say, look, we found this, and you might be still interested in working with us on this because it's all within our common interest. So this is the whole idea of fostering this relationship and being very deliberate and direct about it. Next slide. So what is the curriculum that we use? Like I said earlier, there's the didactic component, and basically this is designed to provide skills and knowledge necessary for successful research, design, and the conduct of proposed community engaged research projects. The field of research and getting funded to support research is a very competitive environment. I mean, you could do everything right, but there's still some degree of chance. But again, sometimes if you know how to put these things together well, your likelihood of getting funded is much higher. So going through some of these skills development, we think is very important. Then there's the experiential piece where you can get mentorship or be able to find some other additional support to be able to do the work. So you have people like Dr. Xavier, you know, Ms. Fields, myself, and other investigators within the CaTS who can assist or provide certain expertise or consultation that a team might need in terms of making sure that they're successful with their project. Next slide. So some of the potential topics that we cover, and we tend to try and customize it to the needs of the proposal. So based on however the deficiencies or the weaknesses that were cited by the reviewers were for the teams that were selected, the didactic program is kind of tailored around it. But there are some very core elements that constantly repeats themselves through each year in terms of our didactic training. One is that we have an introductory session where we want the teams that have been selected to get to know each other and to be able to even collaborate or leverage each other's expertise. There's also the community academic partnership in CBPR, really trying to make both teams understand if they haven't done a self-evaluation of why they're a good team, maybe that process will help them to strengthen that relationship. Also the human protection and IRB, we go through that process so that folks can achieve that. Typically the academic folks will have the human protection certification from NIH, which is through the organizational mechanism called CITI. The community folks typically don't have that yet, not in all cases, but in most instances. So we work with them and encourage them so that they can also give them the support to achieve also the city certification, which then makes them bona fide to be able to conduct the research also at the highest scientific, with the highest scientific rigor. We talk about grantsmanship. How do you put some of these grants together? What are NIH and some of these federal agents look for? Sometimes the research grant proposals are very different from what people normally have to put together for what we call the foundation. So again, knowing the distinction between those and learning what the funding agencies, mostly like NIH, CDC, SAMHSA, looks for becomes very important. And that's something that we communicate through this didactic training. We also have our scholars present to our community advisory board, because again, this is also a good opportunity for additional community members. People are pillars in the community, people who are advocates for community, people who run or have a very high level involvement in community-based organization or faith-based organization, to also put the additional community lens and look at the research and give input. So that's also another piece that we do. We said some mentorship happens, and if it's requested, we will seek to make sure that it happens. We also bring about the need for looking at diversity, culture, and language. As for those of you who had Dr. Xavier introduce herself, that's her expertise. She teaches cultural competencies and linguistic competencies. And again, that's also tied into health literacy. It's very important that we're able to present information in a way that folks understand. So being mindful of that and making sure that we're not so technical that we're communicating above people's head and not really having conversation with them. That the communication is not conversational in nature. There is issues of co-authorship and the process of dissemination. We expect that whatever publication comes out, that both the community partner and the academic partner, all the folks who play key roles, will co-edit, author the paper, and then finally looking at the evaluation of the program. Next. So these are important, and they are in the RFA, the call for proposals. So we just wanted to point it out. You all have received notices, so the release date, you're familiar with that. You're here today, so you're familiar also with today's date of being in the informational section. But the next, a week from today, is the deadline for the letter of intent. This is very important, and in most instances, what we tend to look for in the letter of intent is to look at eligibility. And there, what we want is that we want folks to have identified the academic and community partners and indicated that they were interested in applying. In the past, what we've basically done is say, if you don't hear from us, then it means you're good to go. But in some instances, people may still want a word to say, okay, everything is fine. But mainly what we look for is there an academic PI? Is there a community PI? And is there a commitment to pursuing this? So that's really what we look for. December 2nd will be the deadline for the application. Please, at any point, if you have any question, whether before submitting your letter of intent, in case you have questions, please email Ms. Fields. She's the best person to contact. Also, we have others, Dr. Xavier and Dr. Betty Kennedy on there also. But if you have any question, we want to be able to help you to be able to put your application together. We don't want a question that you have that you didn't get an answer to prevent you from submitting. Then we'll contact you by December 21st. This is all peer reviewed. We have people, some community members. Last year we started with review by our community. Some members of our community advisory board members who looked at the grant from a community relevant standpoint. But we do bring all the reviewers together. They go through an orientation. The evaluation criteria is all spelled out. We address all questions, and we make sure there's no conflict of interest in the review process, because we want everybody to get a fair review. And the training starting date, if all things go well, then that will be January 4th. So that's sort of the schedule. So these are key events and dates that we want you to pay attention to. Next slide. So these are the contacts. Well, like I said, Ms. Fields, also Dr. Xavier would be the two folks that, you know, my name is on there just to make the, to occupy a little space, but those two would be the folks who really doing the hard work in this process. But again, like we said, all communications, you could send it to Ms. Fields, and she'll make sure that your questions are, whatever your needs are, we address them. Also, the application details are all on the CaTS website, and the application will be submitted to what is called sparks.lacats.org. So don't email it in on the 21st, the 2nd of December. Please make sure that you go on that site and you upload it. And I think it might require that you pre-register before you're able to submit, but it's not a difficult process. You can also email if you forget Ms. Fields' address. You can, I think we have a community website. It would be good to encourage you to look at it, a website for LaCats, and I think you can also go there and submit a request. If you have questions, or put your queries in there. So I think this concludes the presentation. I think this might be the last slide. So at this point, we'll pause and we'll open it up for questions.
I'm just listening to this.
Yeah. So any questions that anybody has, we'll take it at this point.
Are you going to send this slides?
I mean, we can send the slides. I don't know, have we done that enough? I think we post that in the recording on the site, but we can, I think, send it. There's nothing proprietary about it. So yeah, for those of you who have attended, if you want the slides, we can send it to you. Yeah.
I have a couple of questions. One is the academic PI. That is it required? Like, you know, I mean, I know, you know, it's a community research basically. So if there's like a basic scientist, basically the way I am right now, right. So if he's interested, I mean, to collaborate, is it possible, or it's just like it never happened?
No, I mean, you're in the field of alcohol. So let's say there's a community engagement, a community organization that does a lot of work in alcohol research, or maybe more of a service provider to maybe try and maybe reduce substance abuse. So they may be in the substance abuse field, more so focusing on alcohol reduction. Then I think once it's more of a community base, there could be an aspect of it where you as the academic person may collect maybe some samples and do some basic science analysis. I think that would be more translational research. Maybe a part of that grant could go into maybe counseling the folks, or, you know, figuring out, you know, if there's some biological mechanism and maybe their problem is not all social. Yeah, I think it is possible to be able to team up. The only thing would be that your partner has to be, it would be nice if they in that field where they already maybe providing a service or doing work in that space, and then you as academic investigator providing them maybe with some of their maybe lab work. So instead of taking a specimen to maybe another commercial lab, your lab is equipped to be able to do those analysis, and you're very interested in doing those analysis. Then I think that would be a very strong, viable project, and could be a project that could then lead to further work that maybe NIH will be very, very willing to fund. So we're looking at this to for this project to really set to collect the data to leverage it to go to the next level. That even maybe if you went to the CaTS regular pilot project, that's $50K for 1 year. So you can go from this stage to that being the next stage, then going to NIH or CDC with the project. But doing this with your team members so that, you know, it's like you've built a relationship and you're building this infrastructure to be able to continue to do the work. So yeah, definitely, I think the only thing I would say is that for a community person who's trying to work with academic, that academic partner has to be part of one of the partner institutions of CaTS. Because it's NIH money, the money has to be funded through a CaTS partner. But most of the money really doesn't go to the academic. It goes more to the community because you can get salary off the grant, you know. So you, the academic person, really giving your time because this is an interest. But the community, because they're very resource limited, they use some of the money to pay if it's counselors or people who are going to collect the data in the field and everything. Those guys can get paid, but not to go as salary for maybe the CEO of the organization or the academic person. Because it's not a lot of money. It's really to get to the folks who are on the ground doing the work, yeah. Now,
second question is, if you don't mind,
go ahead.
How to find this community PI? I mean, is there any way to connect with?
Yeah, so I mean, if you have an interest and you want to connect with the community person, just let us know. And, you know, we have some community advisory board members who are well connected in the field. If somebody is in the space that you're looking for, we would, you know, put the word out and see if they want to have, we could schedule a meeting so y'all could get to know each other, you know, and be able to work. I mean, you at Xavier, so we know you very well, so I think we can vouch for you, you know, but so I mean, I think that would be in terms of your work and who you are, but I think, you know, and the same might be true for a community person who's on the call now and saying, I have this brilliant idea, but I don't know who I can work with at Tulane or LSU or Xavier or, you know, and then we could say, okay, no problem. What's your area of interest? We can try and match you with an academic person that we think would be a good fit. And we may offer two people that you might be interested in. You may be able to go on a speed date with both groups and then make a decision after the first date who you all feel you're compatible or you're not, you know. So yeah, so I wouldn't let that deter you. If you have an idea and an interest, let us know, since the letter of intent is just a week away, so we can at least try and connect you with somebody by midweek next week so that, you know, you can at least have an initial conversation, put the letter of intent in, and then work to develop the relationship and the application.
I'll send you an email shortly.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions, comments?
Yes, Dr. Sarpong. How long is the training, and like how many hours per week, how many weeks does it last?
Well, in the past, we kind of compressed it, and so it's about like 13 sessions, lasts about 6 weeks. There are a few times we have some reading assignments and we'll give you this book. We tend to give this book away as a community-based participatory research book. It's real thick, so we don't expect folks to read the whole book, but we pick up maybe 2 or 3 or so chapters and we have folks read it and we have discussion. The main point here is we want the researchers to understand community. You know, because some people think research community, oh, I need to talk to community because I need to recruit. They don't understand that community involvement from concept to dissemination is important. So, you know, and when that relationship is only about recruitment, you know, it's not the best relationship because basically the community feels they're being used because you get what you want, I don't see you anymore. And then when you need me again for recruitment, you show up at my door, you know. But if I'm part of how we think of the research, you know, how we develop the research ideas and how we write it up and then we implement it together. Then when it's time to disseminate it, community is right there to help with dissemination. So we believe that that relationship has to be solid so that they're doing it together. So we even require that a didactic that both the academic and the community both attend. Because sometimes people say, oh, I already know this already, but honestly, they don't, right?
Yeah.
So it is very important that also, I think sometimes is the misunderstanding or the gap between this whole and understanding between community and academics. You know, sometimes academic things, community don't know this, but they know it, maybe not in those technical terms. And so sometimes just being able to even have the conversation. We've had instances where folks have said through some other presentations, and they would say, some community folks would say, I wish I knew this because I would have asked a whole different set of questions when they approached me to collaborate with them or to get into this partnership with them. Does that make sense? Because sometimes, and this even happens with organizations, with countries, people think folks are doing them a favor. So they give them a pass to a lot of stuff. But if they're bringing you to the table, it means you got something to offer. So don't sell yourself short is how I think about it. That's my little pet peeve. But, you know, I think we have to ask the tough questions. You got something to offer because if you didn't have anything to offer, they wouldn't approach you in the first place. So you can't sell yourself short. And so there's got to be that mutual understanding, mutual respect. And then collectively, you can move that needle forward. Because we do a lot of research. How is it that we still haven't been able to change much? You know, I remember one quick incident where I think it was in the design housing project. There was this little land space which was all overgrown and everything. And the church decided that well, let's clear it and make it into a playground for the children in the neighborhood. 6 months later, the place was overgrown again. Why? The church never asked the community. Was that important to them? Maybe they weren't at the playground because it wasn't safe in that neighborhood to go and let your child go out there and play. But because nobody asked them, they just thought, okay, and spent all that money. And 6 months later, the place was back to where it was before. So I think it's important that we have that communication and understand what people's needs and what their priorities are, and then build it together. So I'm sorry, I got off my soapbox, but I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, I wanted to add, Dr. Sarpong, to that, Ms. Ludman, that the sessions were normally like an hour and a half. Like last cohort, I think it was like a Tuesday and a Thursday, and we did it in the evening time, but we always make sure to accommodate folks' schedules so that everyone can make it. And then we recorded them, and there's opportunities for them to be virtual as well. The other thing I just wanted to add was that if there are multiple partners on each side, like on the academic side and the community side, that we just ask that at least one representative, we want it to be consistent, a consistent representative, but at least one representative make the session, so they can kind of share what was learned in the sessions with the other partners. So if it was like you and Nurse Nikki working together on the community side, then having just one of you all make those meetings if the other cannot.
And Tinesia, this is Margarita. Can you explain a little the process to submit the proposal and what information is requested? Or what we expect for the people to write in the proposal?
Yeah, I'll let take that. Thank you, Dr. Xavier, for the question.
Well, are you answering it or?
No.
Yes, because I see there is an application procedure. So first, you need to submit a letter of intent.
Right.
That is was my question. Yeah, that is a
And
question.
that letter is very simple. It's one page when you said who the community person is, who the academic person is, a little what is the objective of the project, and you said that you are looking at submission of a full proposal. That is one page. You can again show the PowerPoint about the deadlines. I would like to emphasize a little that.
Okay.
Because I remember the deadline is in November 13th. That is next week.
Right, yeah.
Okay, to submit the letter of intent. And once you submit the letter, you have to meet with your team and begin to write a proposal. So that is what I was asking, if you are giving like the instructions of the proposal now or later to the ones who submit the letter of intent, because we expect you to write a little about the research, what you want to do, what are the aims, or what are the methodology, or what you want to do in the project. But also you need to submit a budget. You already know it's $10,000. So how do you plan to spend that money? What you expect to get from the project? And I am telling you, this has to be a very small or short pilot project because it's 1 year. But during half of the year, we will be working with you to review the proposals, to do the educational, the training about CBPR, community-based participatory research, and making the proposal better so it is approved by National Institute of Health, NIH. And also, if you are working with people in your proposal that is human subjects, you need to do the IRB, the internal review board process. So all that takes at least 4 or 5 months of the year. And so the rest of the time is when you are really doing the project. So it has to be a very short, very focused project to submit in this proposal. This is, again, is a pilot to just apply all the skills that you're gonna learn about community-based participatory research, learning and applying. That is the objective of this award, is that you move forward and advance your careers and your professional development and are more able later to submit a bigger grant for funding. So that is what I was thinking. You're gonna provide some instructions about the proposal, not the letter of intent.
Right. So Dr. Xavier is right. But all of that also is in the RFP. You know, we kind of lay it out. It shows you the rubric for how you're going to, how it's going to be evaluated, all of those things. There are forms that you need to basically include. So all of that is in the application process. So be sure that you know, you go to that section, and just like if you were doing an NIH grant, you need to have a copy of the RFP in front of you, underline, highlight the key things that, and there is a checklist, I think, also in there. So please take a look at the RFP, and even after you've reviewed it, you feel that you have some additional questions, then do contact us, and we'll make sure that we answer your questions. But it's all in there. You need to give some background information. Why is this study important? Stressed on community relevance. If this is based on a need.
That is what I wanted to every person to have that link, so you can go and follow all the instructions and understand better how the process works. Thank you, Dr. Sarpong and Tinesia.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Rose, for posting this link in the chat. Yeah, this is just this is not the RFP or the request for proposals. This is the just the funding mechanism on the CaTS site. So you can go to CaTS.org and click on Community Scholars Program, and you will find this information. It has the key dates. It has all of the RFP information just on the website. So you can have it double time if you have the request for proposal. But what Dr. Echeverry was talking about was just the application process and the letter of intent and the full application and what should be included. One thing I just wanted to note about the LOI, so the letter of intent, since it's coming up next week, is that will be emailed to info@lacats.org, whereas the proposal will be submitted through the Spark request online system. So just be, careful to look at the submission details for both of those things. But let us know if you have any questions. You can always reach out.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah.
Well, if not, we don't want to keep you here. I mean, we'd love to have you for another couple of minutes or an hour, but we know it's Friday and some of you have things to do. You got places to go and things to do. So if there are no questions, we want to thank you for your interest. We are here to serve, so please let us know if there's any way we can be of service. And we're hoping that, you would get your idea forward. The good thing is that even if when you submit it, even when you think you're not ready, at least put something together and submit, because one of the things you're going to do is you're going to get input. You're going to get a review. You're going to get comments, and you can always use those comments to improve it. Maybe submit it somewhere else or back to something else that we offer. So I want to encourage all of you to go ahead and put something together, because you never know. A friend of mine told me that writing grants is like buying the lottery ticket. He said, if God wants you to win the lottery and you don't have a ticket, sure you can't win. But just because you have a ticket doesn't mean you're going to win either. But like we all think when we get raffle tickets, we all feel like we have the winning ticket. So get you a ticket and pray on it and hope that it's the winning ticket. Okay, if not, thank you all so much. And I want to thank my colleagues, and also for you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.